My name is Lila. I am a 38-year-old philosophy teacher in Chicago. I've always thought of my life as solid, like a rock in a river, hewn by the current, but unchangeable. Until that day. It happened suddenly, a strange sensation in my chest, then a blankness. I didn't fall or scream. All was still, and only one sound remained, as if someone was whispering my name, but not in a voice, but inside my blood. I opened my eyes. There was no ceiling, no sky, no stars. I stood in a space made up of soft light, like dawn in a deep silence. Everything was incredibly still, not dead, but as if the world was just holding its breath. I felt lighter, as if my body was somewhere far below me. Suddenly, I saw that a silver thread was being drawn to my chest. It extended into the infinite depths, where the earth pulsed. "You're between the breath and the light," a voice said from behind me. I turned around. A man in plain clothes stood before me, his face glowing not with light like a lamp, but with an inner glow. He was neither a man nor a woman. The features were both familiar and unfamiliar. "Who are you?" I asked. "A guide," he said. "You have questions. And you'll see the answers if you're not afraid to look." I didn't feel afraid. Rather, it's a sense of awe, as if at a door that hides the truth that you have been searching for a long time, but are afraid to find. Is that death? This is the edge. He passed his hand through the air, and the space parted like a silk cloth. Behind it were scenes, landscapes, moments, living pictures from different eras, faces, destinies. Among them, I felt something inside me respond. I was going to travel not through the world of the dead, but through the layers of consciousness, memory, and truth. And it all started with one question that the guide said. "Are you ready to see what the souls are doing when the bodies are asleep?" The guide led me through a slash in reality. I didn't walk, I was drawn forward, as if the thought of moving was enough. A room appeared in front of us. It had no walls, but it had a sense of structure. The air vibrated like a cloth stretched between two eyelids. There were figures in the middle of the space, women, men, children. Their faces were turned down, their eyes closed, their hands clasped on their chests. They didn't move. I thought they were the dead. "They're not dead," the guide said. "They're the ones who sleep." A dream? The human soul is not idle when the body is resting. She leaves. Sometimes here. I moved closer. One of the sleeping people, a young woman who looked like me, suddenly shuddered, and a faint golden ray shot out from her chest. It reached up, disappeared into thin air, and then disappeared. What was that? Prayer. Thoughts. Fear. Sometimes even love. It all goes into this world. All feelings have a form. All desires are weight. He waved his hand, and a new scene opened up before me. It was an empty city now. The houses were in inky shadow, and the streets screamed in silence. Still, I felt a presence. "This is the world of those who go too deep," the guide said. "Souls who depend on the world remain in their dreams. They build worlds out of ambitions, fears, and illusions. Some live in these worlds forever, not even knowing that they would have woken up long ago if they wanted to." I saw a man sitting on a throne of phones. He flipped through the endless feed. His face was blank. Each movement of the finger was accompanied by an echo drip, 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 like water dripping into a bottomless sink. Why is he here? He's not dead. But a part of his soul has long been cut off from the present. Every time he closes his eyes, he comes back here. He doesn't know it, but he doesn't belong completely to his body anymore. Is this hell? It's a choice. Not yet. I shivered. Everything I saw was too real. These were not allegories, not visions. These were experiences that were happening somewhere, right now, to someone in a different bed, under a different blanket. And when does a person die? The guide was silent for a moment. If his soul is accustomed to the light, it goes to the light. If to an illusion, to it. If to the void, to where it is empty. So, are we already building ourselves a place to go? We build it every night. I suddenly felt cold. Unbearably quiet, internal. It's like I've just been shown something that's always been there for me, but I haven't seen it. And it was worse than any nightmare. Let's go, the guide said. Now you will see what happens to those who refuse to go any further. We crossed what looked like a river, but it wasn't flowing. It was a darkness that flowed down into the depths, like thick oil that reflected not faces but actions. Images surfaced, a woman closing doors on a homeless man, a teenager hitting an animal and laughing, a man turning off his father's phone to watch the rest of the show. Each reflection flickered like a pain in someone's memory. What is it? Consequences, the guide said. No action dies. Everything responds somewhere. Always. We crossed this river without getting our feet wet. And they were in the void. There was no floor. There was no sky. Just an invisible pressure, like in a room that's too small. And sounds. Not screams, but breathing. Hundreds, thousands of breaths. Intermittent. Hopeless ones. I turned around. Figures trembled in the distance. People, but without faces. They stood alone, each in his own bubble of reality. Someone repeated the words of the prayer, but unconsciously, like a mantra that he once learned, but forgot the meaning. Someone was just swinging back and forth like a pendulum. Without a goal. They're dead? Yes. But they refused to go any further. These souls rejected the light when it came. Out of fear. Out of shame. Out of pride. But why? The guide approached one of them, a woman with her hands clenched into fists. He touched her forehead. At the same time, I saw the scene of her death. A heart attack. Fast. Fear. She screamed, not with her voice, but with her heart, I'm not ready. The light came to her, warm and inviting. But she turned away. I didn't believe it. Or afraid of too much love. Did she think she wasn't worthy? I whispered. Almost all of them thought so. But Jesus. He forgives, doesn't he? Forgiveness is not a chain. It doesn't hold us back if we want to escape. I looked at these souls. And suddenly I realized that their loneliness is not a punishment. This is the solution. Their reality is a lock that they themselves have closed. What will happen to them? Some people still respond. Sometimes, after time, which is not here. Then they go. Sometimes it doesn't. Then it becomes an eternity. He swiped his hand again. And I saw a man sitting in a room full of books. He read and reread the same page. But there were no words on the page. Only black spots. He was smart. But the truth he sought had long been told to him. He simply rejected the form in which it came. Intelligence can be a cage, the guide said. So is pride. So is shame. And I realized that death doesn't solve anything. It only exposes. All that we were becomes all that we have. Everything we ran away from becomes everything we are left with. And again the cold. Not from fear, but from the realization that I might be here, too. Let's go, the guide said. You need to see those who have gone further. And why? We emerged from that gloomy void and found ourselves at the border, where darkness met something light, but not quite light, more like a subdued glow, like dawn on a cloudy day. There were other souls standing there, not as isolated as those in the river of the refused. They walked, but with heavy steps, as if carrying invisible chains. The guide said quietly, "They are those who have seen the light, but have not dared to accept it completely." I looked closely, and they were encased in transparent crystals that reflected their fears, regrets, and doubts. There were small lights in each stone, like stars, but the lights flickered on and off. Why didn't they accept the light? I asked. Because of the fear of change. Before losing control. Before you have to let go of yourself, he said. Light requires trust. To give yourself completely is to be born again. And many are afraid to die for themselves. One of the souls looked at me with her own eyes, sad and tired. She reached out silently, as if to grab me, but the barrier was impenetrable. Sometimes fear becomes home, the guide continued. And it's easier for a person to stay in the dark than to risk stepping into the unknown. I felt my own fear. What if I can't let go of everything that's holding me? All the habits, illusions, and masks I hide behind? The guide noticed my look and said, "To accept the light is to face the truth. The truth is painful, but liberating." He held out his hand, and 4 pictures appeared before me, the 4 fates of those who walked but did not step into the light. The first is a woman who lost her son, who hid in anger and despair. Her light, forgiveness, was too heavy a burden. The second is a man who lived a lie and deception, who was afraid to admit himself. The third is a teenager who destroyed the trust of loved ones, but could not believe in his own value. The fourth is an old nun who spent her entire life praying, but was afraid of God's love. In every story, it was the same: the light came, but their hearts were closed. The light calls, but the soul must open the door, said the guide. And that's what freedom is all about. I remembered my fears and doubts. I realized that every obstacle inside is a choice, not a sentence. And I? You've already chosen to go, he smiled. But the journey is just beginning. We moved on, to what was waiting for me, to those who were not afraid to meet the light, who had already crossed the threshold and found peace. I took a deep breath. My heart was pounding, but I knew there was a truth ahead that was worth living and fighting for. We came to a massive gate that shone with a faint but living light, like the breath of something eternal and indestructible. Their surface was made of transparent crystal, through which souls could be seen, different in age, faces and destinies, but all united by inner peace and light. The guide stopped and said quietly, "Those who chose the light are here. Those who decided to change, to fight an internal battle and win over themselves. They are given a chance for redemption and renewal." I watched as the goalie, a tall, blond man with eyes the color of the morning sky, opened the gate. Voices came from inside, soft but filled with love and hope. "Come in," he invited with a glance. I took a step forward and felt the weight of doubt and fear begin to ease. It was warm inside, but not blinding. It was a light that did not press, but embraced, like a soft blanket on a cold evening. There were people in front of me, not perfect, but sincere. They smiled, helped each other, and looked at each other with the understanding I'd been looking for. Among them, I recognized the ones I had seen in the crystals, but now changed, free of the shackles. One woman came up to me with her eyes full of tears. I was a prisoner of pride and despair. Here I learned to forgive and be forgiven. Another man with kind features said, "I was looking for the truth in a world of lies. Here it has become my essence." The guide explained, "Redemption is not an instant gift, but a process, a path. Here, souls learn to love, trust, and let go of pain and fear." I felt my own wounds begin to heal slightly, and my heart began to fill with hope. But something inside me told me that there were still challenges ahead. Suddenly, a silvery light appeared in the air, and a figure appeared in front of me, Jesus. His eyes were full of compassion and wisdom, and his voice was quiet and powerful at the same time. "Every moment is a choice," he said. The light calls, but the path is difficult. You must go further to understand the truth. I nodded, realizing that this experience was not just a revelation, but a challenge. And I'm ready to accept it. After meeting Jesus, the gate slammed softly behind me, and I found myself in a different space, a semi-darkness where every movement seemed to be underwater, and the air was thick, like a thick fog of memories. There were shadows here, not malevolent, but rather lingering, like the remnants of my own fears, regrets, and unspoken words. They whispered, called, sought my attention. The guide, who was walking nearby, said calmly, "This is a test of oblivion. To move on, you need to let go of what keeps you in the past. Confronting your own shadows is the most important step." I saw images in front of me, faces of people from my past, moments that I tried to forget, but which remained inside me like nails in my heart. There was fear of betrayal, resentment, guilt. Suddenly, one of the shadows came to life. It was me, looking at me from the inside. She questioned me, demanded excuses, held me captive. I felt my heart tighten with pain, but I remembered the words of Jesus' choice in every moment. I said softly, "I'm letting you go. I'm freeing myself." The words seemed to cut through the fog. The shadows began to fade, their whispers fading. Instead, there was a light that warmed me from the inside out. The guide smiled. "Accepting your shadows is freedom." As the light grew brighter, a new door opened in front of me, the door leading to the next revelation. I took a step forward, feeling my fear give way to determination. As my journey continued, I knew that even deeper truths lay ahead. I crossed the threshold of the door and found myself in a space where light and shadow intertwined in a bizarre dance. It was a cross between dawn and dusk, a time when the edges of reality become blurry. Jesus appeared before me, but now his image was different, not only as a merciful Savior, but also as a guardian of the truth, who carries the inexorable light of prophecy. He spoke softly, but each word was louder than 1,000 voices. "The world you know is on the verge of a great trial. In June 2025, there will be 4 events that will change the fate of millions." I felt a tightness in my chest, a sense of foreboding, but fear and hope were intertwined in an unbreakable knot. He continued. "The first is an explosion in the heart of one of the great capitals. Its consequences will be not only physical, but also spiritual. People will see their reflection in the ashes. The second is a big wave of distrust, which will cover even those who did not doubt before. Faith will be the test, and lies will be the mask of truth. The third is a voice that calls for unity, but its true purpose is division. Many people will believe it, but only a few will be able to recognize the deception. And the fourth is the moment when everyone will be faced with a choice, accept the light or stay in the dark. This will be the most difficult hour." I stared at him, unable to look away, feeling that this was not just a prophecy unfolding before me, but the fate of humanity. "Why me?" I asked, barely audible. He smiled, but there was no flippancy in it. "Because even the simplest person can become a light in the dark. You must tell the world what lies ahead for them. Your story is a warning and a hope." My heart was beating like crazy. I realized that I wasn't just a witness anymore. I am the messenger, the bearer of truth, and the path ahead is full of darkness and light. The shadows whispered around me again, but now they seemed less hostile than a reminder that the choice was always mine. I took a deep breath and stepped out to meet my fate. After hearing these terrible prophecies from Jesus, my thoughts turned into chaos. My heart was pounding so loudly that I thought I could hear it on all the walls around me. I went back to my usual room, but it felt strange, filled with cold and anxiety. The shadows on the walls seemed to whisper, and I realized they weren't just fears, they were voices of doubt. Suddenly an image appeared in front of me, not a living one, but like a shadow from the darkest corners of my soul. His eyes glowed with a cold light, and he spoke in my voice, but distorted like an echo from hell. Are you sure you want to know the truth? Isn't it easier to close your eyes and live on in the illusion? I could feel the cold gripping me from head to toe, but the inner strength of Jesus kept me going. No, I said firmly. Truth is light, even if it burns. The shadow retreated, disappearing into thin air, but left behind a deep sense of emptiness. I realized that the trials are just beginning, and to pass this path, you need to boldly face your fears and doubts. From that day on, my every night was filled with visions and whispers, and every dawn brought a new understanding. To be a messenger, you need not be afraid of the shadow inside you. Days had passed since meeting the shadow of doubt, and each new dawn brought both pain and hope. The shadow tried to come back, but I knew now that I wasn't alone. The voice of Jesus sounded inside me like a small but unyielding beacon. You were chosen for a reason. You are the messenger. The truth you saw is not for fear, but for awakening. I felt a new determination fill my heart. Fear and doubt could no longer control me. Truth was the fire that cleansed all that was false and false. Soon I began to notice people listening to me, at first reluctantly, then with genuine interest. People felt my pain, but also my faith, which became a light in their darkness. But every step wasn't easy. The opposition was fierce, not only from outside voices, but also from internal struggles. My roots, upbringing, and habits all seemed torn apart by this new knowledge. Still, I couldn't back down. My whole soul was imbued with the call to carry the light, no matter what. For truth is the power that liberates. And when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see my old self anymore. There was a woman who was willing to go all the way, even if the path led through darkness. After everything I'd been through, I was finally home, not just in my own home, but in a new dimension of my own self. Returning from that world was not a return to the old life. It was a resurrection. My eyes, which had previously seen only the mundane, now picked up depths and shades hidden from most. Every little thing, the rustle of the wind, the warmth of the sunlight, the soft voice inside reminded me that life is a gift, and it is full of meaning if we are willing to accept it. I began to listen carefully to my heart and reflect on the message I received. It wasn't just a warning, it was a call to action, to wake others up. Like a quiet spring, which every day spills into a powerful river. The inner fears and doubts that had plagued me before I saw the truth were now dissolved in the light of understanding. I realized that fear is only the shadow of ignorance, and when the light of truth penetrates that shadow, it disappears. One evening, as I stood at the window, I felt an invisible gaze on me, a grace that I could not explain in words. It was the certainty that I wasn't alone, that someone was guiding me, that my mission was continuing. I took my diary now. It became not just a collection of thoughts, but a guide to the road to enlightenment, a road that I wanted to share with everyone who is ready to hear. What I had been looking for a long time awoke in my soul: peace, faith, and boundless hope. I was no longer afraid of the future, because I knew that even in the darkest places there was light, if you opened the doors to it. It was the beginning of a new chapter in my life, a life filled with meaning, love, and indomitable faith. My near-death experience was not just a memory, it was a source of strength and inspiration. And may this story I tell be a beacon for those who seek light in the dark. Because the truth that I have learned is not the end, but only the beginning of the path.